everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the monthly money for November 2024. Second to last monthly money of the year. That's insane. How are you guys feeling? Let me know in the comments. I honestly can't believe we're so close to the end of the year. It's kind of been giving me a little bit of like panic and anxiety. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. So let me know how you've been feeling. We are going to get cozy, talk about money in today's video. I know I'm a little late. We are about a week into November now. We'll talk about that in the money feels section of the video, but I want to welcome you to this video, to this monthly money reset. We are going to be going through how I budget for a new month, all of the steps as always, cash envelopes, what I spent, saving and investing, credit cards, what's next, all of that. Plus the money feels, like I said, will be in this video. If this is anyone's first time joining me here on my channel, I'm so happy that you're here. My name is Zoe. I'm 28 and I live in Montreal. I post a lot of videos about lifestyle and vlogs, plus talking about personal finance, just kind of trying to give you guys a holistic view into a regular person's life. And if you're not new, you guys know the drill. And I'm also so happy that you're here. Please give this video a thumbs up, you guys. It really supports my channel. And let's jump in. Let's jump in. We're still on pumpkin chai, okay? I'm like a mid-November getting into the holiday spirit type of girl. I did wear my somewhat festive sweater. This sweater's so cute. It's from Cezanne. And then I'm like schlepping it with my sweatpants. The reason why it took me so long to film this video, there's a few reasons. One is that the 1st of November fell on a Friday, which Fridays are always a really busy day for me. I usually try and film these videos on the 1st of the month because I don't just film these videos to put them on YouTube. I film them because this is my genuine budgeting routine and I do my budget turnover and everything somewhere between like the 30th, 31st, 1st, and 2nd of the month. Ideally. For most of October, I felt really good about money because I wasn't thinking about money I wasn't thinking about money that much in October, which is a habit that I implemented in September. Honestly, game-changing habit. So if anyone missed my September money reset, basically what I challenged myself to do was for one day, not to think about money. And that didn't mean go spend like crazy, do whatever I wanted. It just meant not think about money so much, not worry about, I'm the type of person, if I have to pay for parking, I'm like, ugh, $4 for parking. I'm the type of person that anytime I buy anything, I'm always making a judgment about the cost, the price, the fact that I spent money. I feel a lot of guilt around money. I feel a lot of shame, anxiety. I feel also a lot of excitement around money. Like when money comes into my bank account, it makes me feel excited. Like I have so many, sun's coming out, so many emotions around money. And I would bet that you watching probably do too. A lot of us do, and it's normal. And that's why I love to include these heart-to-heart chats in these money videos. It's not always easy for me to like profess some of these deeper feelings that I have towards money, but I hope that they can be helpful. That's why I do it. It's also kind of like therapy for me. So I challenged myself to remove judgment for just one day, and it actually felt so good that I kind of tried to keep doing it throughout the rest of the month of September and then carry that habit. Oh my God, that habit. Carry that habit into October. For many weeks, that felt really good. It felt nice to remove a lot of that judgment. And you might think that telling myself to stop thinking about money would make me actually spend more. I think it had the opposite effect where it made me spend less. Because I wasn't always thinking, you can't have this, this is too expensive, oh my gosh, what a crazy price on that. Because I wasn't always thinking about what I can't have, it just kind of allowed me to feel neutral. I knew that I could go get a coffee if I wanted to, but it was fine. I didn't have to. So although thinking about money less made me spend a little bit less money, it also took me away from my good habits of tracking every dollar that I spend, inputting everything into my budget tracker, keeping up with counting my cash envelopes. It also took me away from some of those good habits, which towards the end of the month, although I didn't spend that much, when I finally took a look at my cash envelopes, and usually I'll look through my cash envelopes and I'll look at my budget tracker throughout the month just to see how I'm doing. I barely looked at either this month, which gave me kind of a shock when I finally did at the end of the month. Even though my spending actually wasn't that high, just to see it all at once instead of in individual increments, it was shocking, and it kind of caused me to go into like anxiety mode. Because I had felt like I didn't spend that much throughout the month, I was expecting there to be lots of money left in my cash envelopes. I was gonna take that money, put it towards my Christmas savings, and when I finally emptied my cash envelopes, which I actually did on camera, I will show you guys shortly, I felt crushed because they were empty. I wasn't prepared for the fact that they were empty because I hadn't even been looking at my cash envelopes. I'd only been taking money out when I needed to spend it, for example, at the grocery store, at the restaurant, but I wasn't keeping up with my spending. So I didn't know what was going on, and that led me to feel like shit. So this is a great lesson for me, is that I need to find that middle ground of not constantly worrying about money, not constantly telling myself you can't have this, you can't have that, not always talking about money in conversations. That was another thing, is like I felt like in conversations with my boyfriend and with my friends, it was always like, oh, this is so expensive. Like I always had to bring up money. So not doing all of that was good. However, I still need to check in with my budget tracker, ideally once a week, look at my cash envelopes, take the money out and count it, because that's something that makes me feel good, to avoid that shock at the end of the month. So like I said, this is a budgeting method that I actually use. So I needed to flip over my cash envelopes for the new month. I had nothing left, like I said. So I did film that, and that is usually step one after talking about the money feels and reflecting. So I guess that's step two. After step one comes step two. So that is step two of my money routine, is to empty the cash envelopes, which I did over the weekend. Jumping back into money feels, I was vlogging that weekend, and if you guys watched that video, I had like a full money meltdown in the car because I was hoping for money left over to put towards my Christmas savings. I also had completely forgot, like as I do, I completely forgot that I needed to pay for my ski pass. I think what I need to start doing is buying my ski pass at the end of the season so that it's not a shock and it's not due right around Christmas time, because that was really what caused this like deep anxiety, panic, and feeling like, oh my gosh, spiraling. I don't have enough. How am I going to cover these things? Skiing is super expensive. It's definitely a luxury, but it's not a luxury that I'm willing to give up, because it's something that is so good for my mental and physical health in the winter. It is such a long winter here in Quebec. It's long, it's dark, it's honestly very depressing, and skiing for me is like a light amongst all of that. I also already have all of my gear and everything, so it's just something that's important to me. Why didn't I save up for it? I know, I'm kicking myself too. My goal is to save $1,000 for Christmas, and I think I have about 600, so I'm quite short, which also doesn't feel great. So all of that happening on the weekend just really led me to feel like shit, panic, cry, anxiety. Am I feeling better now? Slightly. I'm feeling better because one is that I had to acknowledge to myself that I live a beautiful life. I live a very beautiful life, and anxiety will lie to us and tell us messages that aren't true. My anxiety tells me that I'm poor, that I'm like gonna end up on the street. Like my anxiety creates these insane worst case scenarios. When you look at it logically, I'm crying about not having enough money for a ski pass. Like that is insanely privileged. That's an insanely privileged thing to be stressed about. And so while it's still real, while my stress is still real and those feelings aren't nice, they're not as dramatic as I'm making them out to be. And it's not this end of the world situation like my anxiety makes me feel like it is. So acknowledging that was very helpful. And then what I did was just make a plan going forward of like, okay, skiing is important to me. I've acknowledged that. I'm going to pay for it. Luckily, I can pay for it in 3 installments, so that should be very helpful. I was hoping to take ski lessons this year, which would have added another $500, and I just had to come to the sad conclusion that I just can't afford it this year. Last year I could, and that was great for me, but this year I can't afford it, and so it's probably not gonna happen unless something changes. The other thing I had to think about is, yes, I wanted $1,000 for Christmas, and I love being able to give generously to my friends and family, but if that's not in the budget this year, then that's not in the budget this year, and I'll just have to taper down my gifts that I'm gonna give people. And at the end of the day, it's not about the price tag on a gift that you give, but about the thought that you put into it. So that's something else that I've been reminding myself overall, just to kind of bring me back down to earth and remind myself that at the end of the day, I'm very blessed, my life is great, and I don't want to sit around crying about money all the time. I used to do that, and it was funny because this weekend, the feelings that I felt really brought me back to that place of that just deep financial anxiety, and it felt so bad, like truly tears coming out of my eyes. But we're just gonna move right on forward, and that's all we can do. I wanted to share that story with you guys because I know this time of year can be very hard for people, can be very overwhelming, and just straight up very expensive with the holidays coming up. You want to treat yourself, you want to treat other people. The days are darker depending on where you live. Where I live, the days are very dark, and sometimes we want a little material fix to help with those things, and all of these things can add up. And it's not to say that we should never spend money and not buy anything for ourselves or for other people. We just need to find that balance as always. So that's my little money feels chat. Plus, you guys saw we unboxed. We unpacked the cash envelopes. Now let's move on to the next steps, which all take place over at my desk. And we're gonna get a little refill of tea as well. Welcome to my desk. I was just wearing my blue light glasses. I pulled them out of a drawer. I don't know if these things actually work, but I wanna start wearing them again because I just feel like these days all I do is stare at a computer. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should protect my eyes a little bit. Now is when we get into some real talk about numbers, and we're gonna look at my budgeting spreadsheet together. We're gonna kind of take like a deep dive into what I spent and just prepare my budget tracker for the next month, talk about my fixed expenses and all of that being saving and investing, as well as my credit cards. So let's dive into October's tab. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. So here we are in the month of October. Let's start out by taking a look at my spending. Let's look at the expense summary. I just had to do a few adjustments because this was way off. It was showing that I had a bunch of money left over in categories where I didn't have money left over, which just goes back to what I was saying previously, that I didn't do a good enough job inputting all of my spending. I think a lot of times this month I forgot to grab receipts. Sometimes places will not give me a receipt because for the most part, I feel like most people don't grab them. And then I'll be too shy to be like, hey, can I actually have the receipt? I'll just think that I'll remember and then I don't. So really good learning that I need to always take the receipt. I actually love sitting down once a week at my desk and going through my cash envelopes, taking out all of my receipts, inputting my spending. So I just need to get back on that routine. So groceries, I had to do an adjustment here. I had no money left over. Same thing with the home category. Treat yourself, I can't remember. You guys would be able to tell me right now because you would have just seen my unstuffing clip. I feel like I had the $50 left, but I genuinely can't remember. And if I don't have it left, I don't even know what I spent it on. Probably at the thrift store. All right, Maggie, this was a big category. I had budgeted $200 and ended up spending $264, which is a lot of money on the dog, and that's not it. You guys will see lower down, but I did go over in this category. When I went over, I had to use my credit card. The coffee category, budgeted 40, spent 40. Dining out, I budgeted 250 and spent the 250. Transportation, 30, and I ended up spending 33. That's on 10 passes for the metro. This transportation budget, I'm gonna try and keep it at $30 as well for November. However, now that it's colder outside, I feel like I'm gonna be using the metro a lot more, where I used to try and take a bike. It's a little cold for that. So we're gonna see what I end up doing with this budget. In the personal care category, that was to get my nails done, I budgeted 50. I didn't actually have cash for this because I didn't take out enough cash last month. Budgeted 50, ended up spending 60. This is a category that I want to avoid next month. I ended up ordering, which I didn't even put on my budget tracker, but I ended up ordering a at-home dip powder kit. It cost quite a bit of money, but it would essentially pay for itself in 2 to 3 manicures. So I'm like, this is my last chance. You guys know my nails is like a whole saga for me. I sometimes enjoy doing them at home, sometimes don't. I, for the most part, do not enjoy going out and getting them done, but I enjoy the results. Like right now, my nails are a little grown out, but they look great. She did a great job. However, I just don't feel good about going out and getting my nails done during periods where I'm stressing about money. So I figured it would be better off. I want to go back to doing them at home. It's just something that makes me feel better. I know I'm so wishy-washy. I go back and forth, but I told myself, if this kit doesn't work out and I don't stick with it, I am not allowed to go back to the salon for like 6 months. Like I will have to banish myself to naked nails. No more nails if this at-home kit doesn't work for 6 months. That's the rule. So that's that on personal care. For gifts, I budgeted $40 and spent the 40. Budgeting for gifts is so important. It's always one of those categories where I don't think I'm gonna spend money. I don't anticipate spending money, but the expenses end up coming, and I'm always grateful to have a little cash buffer. The great news is that if nothing comes up, you just can carry that over to the next month or put it towards your cash savings. So it's a really nice little category there. For books, nothing. For gas, I budgeted $150 and ended up spending nothing. However, in November's budget, I already had to buy gas. Health and wellness, nothing. Parking, I don't even know why I include this here. I never count how much I spend on parking. It's probably like $5 to $10 a month. And to me, that's like petty cash almost, like it's not worth logging. So I feel like I'm just gonna take that out. It's not a big expense category for me that's worth tracking. Workouts, $30, I budgeted, spent nothing. Car stuff, I budgeted nothing and ended up having to spend $300 on my, what's called in Quebec, immatriculation, which to be honest, I don't even actually know what it is. And JS was like, it's your license plate, it's your license plate. But I'm like, why is it $300? Like it wasn't $300 last year. I genuinely don't know. There's a lot of things about the way the Quebec government works that like I just don't understand. I wasn't raised here, and so a lot of their wording is different. Obviously it's in French, and I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? I have to pay $300 for something that I'm not even sure what it is. Not to mention that my insurance went up a couple months ago. Like I just feel like I'm unlucky when it comes to my car, but I try and remain grateful. I try and just pay for it and not feel resentment. And luckily, because of my whole car accident situation, I ended up with an extra pair of winter tires. I had just bought brand new winter tires last year, and then my car got wrecked. The new car that I bought came with winter tires, so therefore I had 2 pairs. I was able to sell one of the pairs for $250, which pretty much covered this bill. I received that bill a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. I looked at it and I was like, I'm gonna deal with this later, because it was $300 and I didn't want to pay it. Normally, I don't think it's good to push things off for later, but I'm glad I did push this one off because it allowed me to sell the tires to help cover this bill. So I'm very grateful that that got covered. However, I don't like seeing it here because it just reminds me of, I don't like paying for things that I don't understand what it's going to, you know? There's certain things that I'll pay for, like a nail kit or a new sweater, and I'm like, okay, maybe that was expensive, but I know I'm gonna get value out of this. Not to say that I don't get value out of my license plate, but it's just not really tangible. and I don't really understand it, so it's frustrating. I guess that kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video though, about like not always having this judgment and just kind of paying for it and moving on, not holding this resentment. So let's let it go together. Vacation, nothing. Clothing, 150. This wasn't even a real budget. I just kind of put it there. And I spent nothing. In November, it probably should be about the same. I budget $100 for the dog sitter, which I keep this separate from Maggie's general category because to me, this is more of a work expense. If I need to go out to teach a class, to get some work done, I take that out of like a different mental category and physical because I don't budget for this in cash. So this to me is more of a work expense. I budgeted $100 and spent $81. So if we add this up, you guys, let's see how much. I spent $345 on Maggie this month. That is insane. And this is not even like a crazy out there month. It is so expensive having a pet. I love her so much and I pay for it every month and it's fine. It's just something to be aware of, that there really are a lot of ongoing expenses. Obviously, my case is a little bit different too, just with her breed and her separation anxiety, that she can't stay home alone 8 hours a day. So that's why when I have a big day, I have to send her to the dog sitter and it costs $45, $50. Anyways, it's all good. And most of the time when I'm paying for this dog sitter work week, I'm actually able to go out and make money as well. The last category is personal development, where I had budgeted nothing. So if we look at my total budget, $1,570, ended up spending $1,545. However, I do think we should take this out because it wasn't a genuine $150 that I gave myself. So $1,420, $1,545 overspent by about $125. That feels a little bit more reasonable. But let's go back to what I talked about at the beginning of the video. This $125 here, was that worth sitting in my car, sitting over there in my kitchen crying? No, it wasn't. It was the surprise of it all more than the actual amount. So, lesson for me to learn there. That's that on my spending. If we look at my expense log, this is everything. I did spend quite a bit on groceries this month because of the Thanksgiving supplies. We went to the movies, which I counted that as dining out. I did dine out quite a bit, such as getting a poke bowl, getting little lunches and dinners because I wasn't that prepared. That's something I want to be better at. A really big goal for November is to go weekly grocery stock up, because that is how you can avoid, or I can avoid, going out for lunch and just spending more money when you don't necessarily need to. I'd rather keep the dining out budget for fun things like going to the movies, a special trip to the restaurant, rather than just like a poke bowl that I'm sitting eating in my car and not fully enjoying. So yeah, nothing too crazy or interesting here in the expense log. I feel like we covered everything. You guys can see down here, I had to make some adjustments again because of those receipts that were lost. Going back to October, we can take a look at my fixed expenses next. So I'm very fortunate. My fixed expenses are quite low. Honestly, this is something that I'm really grateful for. Getting rid of my office, moving in with my boyfriend, completely slashed my fixed expenses, which, to be fully transparent with you guys, is what allows me to work as a freelancer right now. My income has been quite low lately, and if I still had my old apartment, if I still had my office, I would be very, very tight on cash. So I'm grateful for these low fixed expenses because it allows me to continue working on building these projects that I'm doing and building my career as a freelancer and as a YouTuber. It's not something that I take for granted. So my rent is $875. This is for my portion of the rent of this 1-bedroom apartment, as well as indoor parking for $175. Then we have my car insurance, which is $176. This went up by $70 from last year. Definitely because of my accident. I hate insurance so much. The accident was 0% my fault, yet now I have to pay an extra $75 a month. Anyways, we're not gonna be mad about it. And the last thing is my Spotify, $13, which I think is going up to like, it's gonna go up to like $16 or something next month. So these are my fixed expenses totaling $1,064. If we add this up with my spending, total spending for the month, we get $2,609, which To some people, this might be very high. To some people, this might be quite low. I think this would be a lot higher if I had a $1,500 rent and hydro like I used to. Not even I think, I know it would be. Going over to my income for the month, I got paid $345 from my first bar teacher paycheck, $735. This was a really low month for me with copywriting. There was basically 2 weeks where I didn't hear from my client. My main boss, my main contact was on vacation. And so I did a lot less hours this month. Well, actually that was in September that I did the less hours get paid in October. So usually I try and aim for about $1,000 or more from copywriting. So for me, this was quite low, $735. Second paycheck from bar gave me $425. The reason that these fluctuate is if my classes fill up, I basically get a attendance bonus. So I'm really excited actually because this season that's coming up, now that it's about to be winter and then soon into the January, new year, new me, the classes really do fill up and I can get an extra $20 or even $30 a class if my class fills. So I'm excited for those people to come in the door and get those paychecks up. For the first time ever, I finally paid myself from my new company. This is another thing, I didn't even talk about this at the beginning of the video, but this is another thing that I've been struggling with is the separation of, I have basically moved all of my social media, YouTube finances into a separate company. I've been meaning to do this for years. I finally did it and there has been a big learning curve there. I was used to seeing my AdSense paycheck come into my bank account and now it goes into a separate bank account and I have a lot of separation between myself and the company. I'm trying to build up a sort of emergency fund for the company and build up a little nest egg there. So I'm trying to keep as much money as I can in the company. I also recently made a lot of investments. I bought a new MacBook Pro that cost over $3,000. I bought you guys hear that? I bought Final Cut Pro, which was $400. So I made a lot of investments in this new business, which is great. I'm investing in my business, I'm investing in myself. It's something that I believe in and that I'm passionate about, but I didn't want to take any other money out of the company to pay myself because I had those big expenses and I'm trying to build up that emergency fund. This month, partly because of the lower copywriting paycheck, also just because it's been so long since I've put money into savings or invested. I've even been taking from my emergency fund, what with my Pilates training. I was like, I need to pay myself so that I can make myself feel like I'm making some strides towards my goals. So I paid myself a dividend of $2,000, which felt pretty high. This brought my total income for the month to $3,505. Even with paying myself, it's crazy how fast things go. I was like, oh great, I'm gonna have so much money to put towards my emergency fund, but sure enough, I had to pay off my credit cards, I have to pay rent, there are so many expenses. I had to refill my cash envelopes, and all of that money just goes really quick. So let's talk quickly about my kind of payday routine. I paid myself at the end of the month and the previous paychecks just kind of came in sporadically throughout the month. I will leave, when I get paid from bar, from copywriting, I will put it all towards my 1 month ahead. This is my most important account because what I want to do is fill it up with my $1,000 cash budget and with my $875 for my rent. Ideally, I should bump this up to $200 and also include my insurance payment, not $200, $2,000, which I think I'm gonna do for next month. And by making sure that that gets filled up first, basically means that my basic expenses, my basic needs, and a little bit of wants are covered for the next month. So that is the first thing that I do. So all of those initial paychecks go into that 1 month ahead account. Then on the first of the month, that account basically gets drained because I take out cash for my budget and I pay my rent. When I paid myself my first ever dividend, I used that money to pay off my credit cards. This month, my American Express was at $525 and my MasterCard was at $279. These numbers are pretty good. You guys have seen me in the past have really high credit card bills, so I was pretty happy with this. However, I was a little bit short on my 1 month ahead just from those paychecks. Also needing to pay that car bill, like I said. So I had some other areas where I needed to top up. Once my rent was paid, once I took out the $1,000 for my cash, I had a little bit of money left over to finally contribute to my savings and my investments. My goal was to put $425 towards my TFSA and to put $425 towards my emergency fund. My goal for my emergency fund is $10,000. However, it currently was sitting at around 6,000 something, because I took out some money to pay for my Pilates teacher training. I also had to take money out for some other reasons, so that's why it's quite a bit lower than I would like it to be. Originally, my goal was to refill my emergency fund before the end of the year. However, I just don't think that's gonna happen because I'm still missing quite a bit of money. What with Christmas and skiing, like I talked about, it's such a high spend time of year. I feel like I'm not gonna have $3,000 to refill my emergency fund. I also need to figure out if I need such a high emergency fund amount, because I determined that amount when I lived by myself and had all of the bills to pay by myself. I lived in an expensive apartment. My hydro used to be like $500, $600 a month in the winter. Like my old apartment was so expensive, you guys. So my fixed expenses, as we just talked about, are a lot lower now. So maybe I don't need a $10,000 emergency fund. I feel like I'm quite hung up on that number without acknowledging that $6,000, $5,000, $7,000 is also a lot of money. So that's something that I need to personally reflect on and just kind of readjust my goals. My big goal, as you guys know, is to grow my net worth to $100,000. But that also includes my investments. So maybe I shouldn't be focusing so much on my emergency fund. Maybe I should focus a little more on my investments. This is something that I need to take some time for myself to think about. Now, I just mentioned that I wanted to put $425 towards my TFSA investments. However, that did not happen. I decided to keep the money aside to cover my ski pass. I just feel like it's a payment that I want to get out of the way, and then hopefully at the end of the year, I will have some money to put towards my investments. So no investing this month, but I did put the $425 back in towards my emergency fund. And I can tell you guys, I'll take a look at my tracker. Oh, my emergency fund currently sits at $6,655. I have $750 out of $1,000 in my Maggie sinking fund. I have $150 in my car sinking fund. I completely forgot about this. I could have used that to pay for my stupid car bill anyway. And I have a fun fund with $150 in it. So in total, I have one high interest savings account. I just put all of them together because you used to only be allowed one account, like one high interest account with Wealthsimple. So that's why they're all lumped together. In total, I have $7,838 kind of available as sinking funds. So although I didn't meet my investing goal this month, I'm still glad that I got to contribute a little bit to my savings. This month didn't exactly go entirely as planned, but sometimes that's just the way it is. And I don't know what else to say. Sometimes we hit our goals, sometimes we don't. Some months are more expensive than others, and I don't want to dwell on it too much longer. I just want to move forward into November, reflect on the things that I need to reflect on, continue to grow, continue to do my best. I think this January is going to be very interesting for setting new financial goals. I feel like it would be a fun video actually for me to reflect kind of now on the goals that I had set almost a year ago and just see like if I've achieved any of them, if any of them have changed, because I feel like a lot has changed since January. Let me know if that video would be interesting for you guys. We have one last step of my budgeting routine, which is to refill my cash envelopes. I filmed this for you guys. now that they are filled, that marks the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and talking about money. I forgot to mention it, but all of my budgeting toolkit will be linked down below. It's all from the line, and I have a code for 10% off. Also, you guys can get excited because the new Blue Planner will be launching very, very soon. You guys can sign up for the line's newsletter if you want to be the first to know. I'm still looking through everyone's submissions for what to call this. You guys gave me so many good ideas and now I can't choose. And just before we go, for good luck, you guys can give Rich Baby Piggy's nose a little rub. I feel like it's been a while since I did this, and this is gonna bring us good money luck for the month of November. All right, it's time for me to stop talking. I love you guys. Bye.